formula. Any initiative for sustainable peace in Ukraine must be based on full respect for its independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity within its internationally recognized borders. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Samson for her statement. Recalling the Security Council's latest Note 507 on its working methods, I wish to remind all speakers to limit their statements to no more than 5 minutes in order to enable the Council to carry out its work expeditiously. I now give the floor to the representative of Czechia.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for convening this meeting and giving me the opportunity to address the UN Security Council on behalf of Czechia. Also, I would like to thank our two briefers. It is our duty to raise our voices once again against the unspeakable atrocities that Russia is committing on a daily basis against the people of Ukraine. Last Thursday, the Russian army launched a brutal attack on the Ukrainian village of Hroza, tragically ending the lives of some 60 innocent civilians who had gathered to bid farewell to a soldier, a defender of his nation. Heartbreakingly, among the victims was a 6-year-old child. This single callous act claimed the lives of 1 in 6 residents of Hroza. The very next day, Russia shelled residential buildings in Kharkiv, killing and injuring even more civilians. And yet, on that very same day, the Russian president tried to convince us that Russia did not start this brutal war against Ukraine and that it is trying to end it. How can this be believed when Russia has been waging a decade-long war against Ukraine, annexing and occupying parts of its sovereign territory, while proclaiming it has no interest in further conquests? Such claims ring hollow. Russia continues its occupation, continues its military operations against Ukraine, continues its attacks on civilian objects and key civilian infrastructure, including targeting ports and grain facilities so vital for supplying food to the world. Moreover, Russia continues its cynical and indiscriminate killing of civilians. Mr. President, we call on Russia once again to stop immediately its aggression against Ukraine and to withdraw its troops from the territory of Ukraine. We reiterate our full support for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders and territorial waters. There can be no impunity for war crimes, including the attacks against civilians committed last week. All those responsible will be held accountable. Czechia will continue to assist Ukraine and its citizens in their just defense against the Russian aggression and in their struggle for liberation of all occupied territories. We call on all those who value freedom, mutual respect, sovereignty, cooperation, peaceful coexistence, and respect for human life as the essential building blocks of international relations to join us. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Czechia for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Romania.
Mr. President, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to address the Council today. Attacks against civilians and civilian infrastructure are prohibited under international humanitarian law, and they must stop immediately. This is a quote from a phrase that we quite often express in UN meetings, in the Security Council and General Assembly, and this has become probably one of the most frequently used phrases in our statements. And yet, such heinous attacks continue. The indiscriminate attacks against civilians in the Kupiansk district in the Kharkiv region on October 5th and the following day on another residential building in the city of Kharkiv bear the mark of the aggressor that Ukraine has been dealing with for the last 19 months. Based on the statistics provided by the Office of the UN High Commissioner of Human Rights, the illegal war started by Russia amounts to almost 10,000 civilian deaths. Civilians need to feel safe again, and indiscriminate attacks need to stop. Life has become incredibly tough for them, especially as winter approaches very rapidly, and critical civil infrastructure has sustained damages from previous shelling. Furthermore, on the night of 5th to 6th of October, there were drone attacks on grain silos and trucks close to the Danube River at the border of Ukraine with Romania. And this constitutes another deliberate breach of international law and international humanitarian law, and also a clear attempt to stop the shipments of grain towards the world. The ports on the Danube River provide alternative ways to the export of grain from Ukraine. Against attempts to artificially increase the global price of grains by impeding the implementation of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, Romania will do its part to support countries in need. And Romania's message to its partners across the UN membership is that we will do everything in our power, together with European partners, to bring safety and calm to the world food market. Romania has facilitated over 27 million tons of Ukrainian grain, and we will seek to increase these export facilities. Mr. President, to conclude, Russia is the aggressor. Its actions are based on the illegal use of force and represent serious violations of the most important principles and norms of international law, enshrined first and foremost in the UN Charter. And Romania firmly believes that justice must be done with regard to all core crimes committed in the context of this war, including the crime of aggression. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Romania for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Poland.
Mr. President, thank you for giving Poland an opportunity to make a contribution to today's meeting. I would also like to thank Madam USG Rosemary DiCarlo and Madam ASG Joyce Msuya for bringing us up to date with the current state of Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. Let me start by expressing Poland's grave concerns over the erosion of the global security system. The wave of violence in the Middle East, which started with an ongoing terrorist attack against Israel, only deepens the scale of insecurity, adding to the war in Ukraine, which is the topic of today's meeting. Poland's position in this context remains firm and clear. We stand by the international law, including the universal right of self-defense of those attacked, respecting sovereignty and territorial integrity of all states. We condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations and call for respecting the international humanitarian law. Having said so, in the light of today's discussion, Poland joins the international community in the firm condemnation of the yet another massacre of innocent civilians conducted by the aggressor's forces in the village of Hrozna just a few days ago. Close to the fifth of Hrozna population was wiped out in a single missile strike, and as we could read in many reports, no family in the village was spared the horror of losing someone close to their hearts. Among those killed in the attack was also a worker of the Polish humanitarian action who was taking care of the elderly there. This is another horrific example of the loss of life of humanitarian workers that Madam ASG mentioned. Excellencies, it has been said many times in this chamber that such disgraceful conduct does not befit a permanent member of the Security Council. Russia follows the notorious footsteps of the Muscovite imperialism by being a major disruptor of international peace and security, while wielding power to block any meaningful response to its transgressions. This leads me to a broader observation. Russian actions undermine trust in the UN system, trust that we now so badly need. When the global security system erodes, all member states, in particular those who trusted with the special responsibilities, must act in such a way that the credibility of the multilateralism is secured, not undermined. This is Poland's call to you all. Contrary to these expectations, Russia, while retaining its member states' rights and privileges, transplants its destructive behavior to all of the workings of the UN system. In other words, Russian aggressive approach is not limited to the battlefield. We witness it on a daily basis here and at the UN. Instead of playing a constructive role in the UN processes, Russia's main goal is to undermine the very existence of the rule-based international order. Russia cynically perceives it as a major obstacle to conducting its aggressive policy with impunity. Mr. President, it is very distressing that Russia has not shown yet even a sliver of goodwill to end its aggression against Ukraine, and that it remains deaf to our appeals for withdrawing military forces from the occupied territories of the neighboring country. Therefore, if we want to enhance the credibility of multilateralism, we should make sure that Russia will be held accountable for its violations of the very fundamental principles of the United Nations Charter. Only by getting our act together and standing firmly by the rules we all agreed to live by, we'll be able to prevent the current world system from disintegrating. And I thank you.
I thank the representative of Poland for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Latvia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank you for this opportunity to address the Council today. I have the honor to deliver the statement on behalf of three Baltic states, Estonia, Lithuania, and my own country, Latvia. We align ourselves with the statement delivered by the European Union. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, enabled by Belarus, is a blatant violation of the UN Charter and threat to the rules-based international order. We strongly condemn Russia's unprovoked and unjustified war of aggression against Ukraine. And we call upon Russia to immediately, completely, and unconditionally withdraw its troops and military equipment from the entire territory of Ukraine with its internationally recognized borders. Let me reiterate that the sole responsibility for this war lays on Russia. Russia started this war, and Russia alone can and must end it immediately. President, we are witnessing a clear pattern of Russia's deliberate steps aimed at causing maximum suffering to Ukraine's civilian population and targeting civilian infrastructure. The evidence of such attacks is mounting. Innocent civilians, including children, are killed or their rights are gravely violated by the Russian armed forces. To this day, the UN has been able to confirm close to 10,000 killed civilians in this war of aggression. This is only a part of the real death toll, as Russia continues to restrict access to the territories it illegally controls in Ukraine. More than 11 million people have been forced to leave their homes or flee their country. October 5, deadly bombings on settlement in Hroza and Kupiansk, Kharkiv region killed more than 50 people, including a child. And this is yet another atrocious attack against innocent civilians. President, Russia's appalling terror against Ukraine's civilian population continues. Attacks against civilians and civilian infrastructure are serious violations of international humanitarian law and thus constitute war crimes. As long as it is the case, there is no place for Russia in the United Nations Human Rights Council. The UN Commission of Inquiry has confirmed systematic use of torture, executions, extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, rape, as well as forced deportation executed by Russia. The international targeting of civilians must stop. These crimes must stop immediately. President, Russian leadership, military personnel, perpetrators, and accomplices must be held accountable for each and every international crime committed in and against Ukraine. Accountability will be ensured. Justice will be brought to the victims. There will be no impunity for war crimes. Let me also underscore that Russia's threats to revoke the ratification of the Comprehensive Nuclear and Test Ban Treaty are highly irresponsible and seriously undermine global security. We call upon Russia to stop its nuclear blackmail. President, we are at a critical moment for the global order. Russia's war of aggression continues to challenge the world in many, many ways. Changing internationally recognized borders by force must not be accepted by international community. International community must firmly stand together against Russia's attack on the principles and norms of the international law. We will continue to provide all necessary support to Ukraine. Respect for the UN Charter is in the vital interest of all states. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Latvia for their statement. There are no other names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.
And you height and you height and you see with has been affected. Again, this is the front lines of climate change. We have not seen floods like this in 60 years in Bentiu, South Sudan. And what we are seeing is the displacement of close to 250,000 people, host communities, IDPs, all affected, and we are trying to serve both. What this has helped us do is, in fact, bring humanitarian assistance together with development aid and consolidate peace where we can, because it helps reconcile the communities as well that are coexisting and sharing the burden together.
These are the emergency medical supplies that are so critical. They are here now in Ukraine. Right here across this truck and many more, we have emergency surgical supplies, resuscitation kits, first aid kits. These are going to go to hospitals, around 100 hospitals in Kiev and Kharkiv. This is the kind of support that we are doing hour after hour across into Ukraine.
أول شغلة خسرت أبوي، وبعدين خسرت دراستي 3 سنين، وخسرت بيتنا كنا قاعدين بيه، يعني كلنا كنا قاعدين ومبسوطين. الطريق كان كتير صعب وشوك وشرطان وكنا كتير خايفين. كل ما نمشي خطوتين يقول المهرب انبطحوا. حبيبتي ما تقدر ترد تنبطح، ترد توقف، وداخت ووقعت وقالت روحوا معفوني اموت. قلنا لها يا نموت كلنا سوا يا نعيش كلنا سوا. هي راح أبوي، صارنا 6 سنين قاعدين بالخيمة، ظلت نقط علينا مي. أنا المدرسة هي حياتي وأنا بحبها كثير وأتعلم بيها وأقرأ وألعب مع رفقاتي، والشيء اللي ما بعرفه رفقاتي علمني إياه، واللي ما يعرف إنه أعلمهن إياه. كانوا يعلمونا على الألغام وعلى الأخطار ورفيق، حتى بالحرب خسرت رفيقتي أسماء، وعمل ما راحت على المساحة وما سمعت كلمة المساحة، راحت فكرت هي القنبلة طابة، شلتها هيك طبتها على الأرض وإنها متفجرة بيها وإنها ميتة.
Cheia, estragou muitas coisas, estragou a nossa escola, estragou a nossas casas. depois, já que agora já está tudo anormal, estamos felizes. Já temos tudo que nós precisamos.
Ako po si Fayan Bandilla, ang president ng KKK, ang Kabataan, Kabubuasan, Kauswagan, isang organization dito sa Maparnas. Itinatak sa amin ng mga kabataan na pagdating sa mga gantong usapin, pagdating sa mga sakuna, meron pala kaming responsibilidad as kabataan na akala ko pagkatapos sa eskwelahan, maglalaro, tapos wala na yung mga ganon. Meron pa pala kaming mas kailangan gawin. Kailangan yun na maging isang kasangkapan para magkaroon ng sinasabi nga, pinapangarap ng lahat, ng resiliency. Hindi lang kami basta pupunta sa evacuation center, makikitulog, magstay doon na parang until mawala si bagyo. Parang isa kami na parang pwedeng may magawa, pwedeng may maitulong para mas ma-less yung epekto ng mga sakuna. Kami ng isang organisasyon na parang magpatuloy pa rin kahit wala na or tapos na yung proyekto. Ang KKK o ang Kabataan, Kabubuasan, Kauswagan ay nabuo noong November 30, 2015. Sa phase 2, parang pinakilala siya sa munisipyo. Parang paunti-unting lagi siyang ini-involve sa mga activities sa munisipyo. Nakilala yung KKK. So parang gumagawa na ng activities yung mga KKK. Naging isa siya sa parang gumawa ng isang mapa, which is yung P3D map. And until now, parang 6 years na yung KKK, parang mas naging active pa siya. Hindi na lang sa munisipyo, sa barangay na involved yung KKK, pati na sa ibang mga munisipyo, nakikita na siya at nakukuhaan na siya ng mga ideya, anong magandang gawin patungkol sa disaster, patungkol sa mga bata. So yun po yung parang naging journey ng KKK until now po. Dati, mailap ako sa tao, mahirap papatayo, mahirap mapapasalita. So yun ang hindi ko ina-expect na mawawala dahil dito sa project na parang unti-unti siyang parang tinatanggal. Kaya na niyang magsabi ng mga opinyon, kaya na niyang magsabi na parang baka ito pwede makatulong sa atin. Kaya na siyang hingan ng ideya. Pag bawa nagpaplano ang LGU, pwede pala akong maging ganito. Pwede pala akong makisalamuha sa ibang mga kabataan, sa ibang mga munisipyo. Pwede pala ako makipag-usap kay Mayor, sa mga heads of the office sa LGU. Pwede pala mangyari yun. Nagbago naman po ako sa community kasi dati nga parang ang mga kabataan ay hindi pwede makisali sa usapan ng matatanda. So parang nabago siya dahil nagkaroon ng KKK kasi parang doon din nila kasi nakita na yung mga ideya ng kabataan, iba nga sa matatanda. Na parang doon, parang mas okay yun. Tapos sa ngayon parang ang mga kabataan ay isa na siya sa source ng mga halimbawa may darating na bagyo, parang kahit bata lang ang tanungin sa barangay, ano na yung weather update? Kailangan na ba lumikas? Okay na yun. Parang pag ganito sabihin ng bata, kailangan na daw lumikas, lilikas na ang lahat. Tapos ang sa munisipyo naman, nabago din siya kasi first time naman kasi nagkaroon ng youth na parang lalo na't focus sa disaster sa DRR. Dati walang nagtuturo ng mga patungkol sa disaster management orientation sa ibang barangay. Nagkaroon sila ng kaalaman. Dahil sa KKK, dahil sa ginagawa ng KKK na proyekto nila. So parang, every merong bagyo, pag panahon ng bagyo, pag sinabing lumikas, lilikas na kasi alam na nila kung ano ang gagawin. Na yun ang tinuro ng mga kabataan sa kanila.
So ngayon po ay nandito kami sa isa po sa mga coastal barangay ng Polillo Island, ang barangay Taluong, Purok 2. Ito po isa sa mga highly at pinaka-naapektuhan po ng bagyong Carding. At isa po dito yung bahay ni Tatay Manuel Dacilio. Ayan po, kung mapapansin nyo po, talagang sirang-sira po yung bahay niya. Isa sa pangunahin pong pinagkakakitaan ng mga pamilya dito ay pangingisda at yung iba po ay mga farmers, mga magsasaka na umaasa lang po sa kanilang tanim, katulad po ni Tatay Manuel na siya po ay umaasa dun sa kanyang mga tanim na nyog. Pero nakakalungkot po na isipin na apektado po yung kanyang pangunahing pinagkukunan ng ikinabubuhay at maging yung kanyang mga nyog ay naapektuhan ng bagyong Carding. Sa ngayon po, ang daming pangangailangan, pangunahin po, isa sa mga problema po ng kanilang pamilya ay kung paano po marirepair, marirebuild yung kanilang tahanan. Para kanina po inabutan kami ng ulan, so isa sa mga bagay na iniisip niya ay kung paano muling maitatayo sa panahon na umuulan, sa gabi na malamig ay meron po silang maayos na matutulugan at matutuluyan. Isa pa rin po sa mga pangangailangan ay yung access nila sa malinis na tubig. At wala rin po silang maayos na mga kagamitan dahil totally na wash out po yung kanilang bahay, pati gamit ay nadala po ng malaking alon dahil ito po ay coastal. Dito po sa may likod ko, dyan po nakalagay yung kanilang CR, yung kanilang toilet na sabi nga ni tatay, kinain na daw ng dagat. Kasama din po yung bahagi ng kanyang bahay. So, isang pangailangan yung pasilidad nila sa Casillas, malinis na tubig. Of course, malaki po yung pangangailangan nila dahil wala na silang pinagkakakitaan. Hindi na rin sila makakabili ng kanilang mga pangunahing pangangailangan para masigurong malinis sila, makaiwas sila sa mga sakit tulad ng diarrhea. Tulad po na sigurado dapat malinis sila sa kanilang katawan. Wala po silang paraan para makabili ng kanilang sabong panligo at panlaba. So nakakalungkot po siyang isipin na maging yung mga gamit ng kanyang mga apo, meron po siyang apo na 8 years old, 7 years old at iisang taon pa lamang na maliit na babe na bata. So ngayon, lahat po ng gamit ng mga bata sa eskwelahan ay totally din po na wash out. So ngayon ang UNICEF po ay nandito at nagkakandak po kami ng assessment at kami po ay nakahandang tumulong kung ano man po yung mga pangangailangan ng mga pamilya po dito sa barangay na ito upang kahit papano po ay makatuwang kami kung paano po sila makakabangon po muli.
With your help, we rehabilitated water supply systems of the most affected communities, giving them access to safe drinking water. To help ensure children and families are protected from disease, we installed wash facilities in schools and in healthcare units. We supported toilet repairs and provided water and family hygiene kits too.
We set up temporary learning spaces so that children would be able to go back to school and participate in the limited face-to-face learning. Education supplies were also provided to teachers and students to support their activities. We provided learn-at-home kits so that parents and caregivers, together with their young children, will be able to continue development and learning activities at home. Training on continued learning were also provided to child development workers and teachers in affected areas.
Child-friendly spaces have been put up for children, adolescents, and young adults so they can engage to social and learning activities and access to services such as mental health and psychosocial support. We raised awareness on different protection issues such as violence and abuse, how to identify, call for help, how to get help through the assistance of our service providers through the referral pathway mechanisms.
After Typhoon Odette caused enormous healthcare needs and interrupted health services to communities, we have deployed mobile health teams to augment the capacity of healthcare providers in delivering integrated health services to communities, especially those in remote areas. The services include immunization for children, adolescents, and pregnant women, prenatal care, nutrition screening and counseling, health education sessions for parents, caregivers, and children, consultations and management of sick children and adults, as well as assessment and referral of children with complex needs such as those with congenital illnesses and disabilities.
Malnutrition continues to be a threat to children's life, even before emergency. With your support, we have identified and treated children suffering from acute malnutrition with life-saving, ready-to-use therapeutic food, provided nutrition supplements to prevent vitamin and nutrient deficiencies in children and pregnant and lactating women, supported health nutrition workers' capacity to ensure cases are immediately detected and treated, and distributed anthropometric equipment, nutrition job aids to ensure continued delivery of essential nutrition services.
UNICEF is providing humanitarian cash transfers to families who were affected by Typhoon Odette in Bohol. It aims to provide financial assistance to meet their basic needs and some counseling on issues affecting children, for example, WASH, nutrition, health, child protection, and education.
Kuya ka mo, waya sad ako dire, so grabe ka, thank you, Gajud.
Salamat sa inyo po.
beera ta'abaane beerti una ta'abaane 4 sano badarba mahakubana sanadkan ta'abne badar mahakubana sanad dambe ta'abne badar mahakubana sanad dambe ta'abne badar mahakubana sanad afraad ta'abne badar mahakubana magib sanadki afraadeeda badar hankubana ya keedki inagane wali keedki hayan aangne todo maalmood oo bi in lahayna baadna an lahayna todo maalmood jidka ha hayne magi jidka ha hayne jeeday odan dhiiday ulaada walin qaada un lahayne bi in lahayne baad in lahayne unti in lahayne wala ama un lahayne ya saasa in ano sedmal modun orugno to jiriti marke o jiriti isbitaal kan maje harunta jeey afarkir maginagati ya isbitaal banaadir ya hadana dadka harunti rogen ya hadana in qaaden oo tayo barla tayo hayti markana sariirtan seeyaa inugdin hadda dhamadaas bari dhamadaas si oo kale dareemay isbitaal banaadir 9 maalmood ka jaray afarkir hayti hadana 5 kiilo idhibay hanagati saadun roogn leb roogno ani ulaada in taaluka in saasa dareemahay dhulka nafti gurigi oo una ka jarni gurigi ma ee ka shaqsinyi in magaaladan la qobsano oo magaaladan una la qobsano ulaadan iskuul baradaano dugsi fadheedano fuundi nagadaano injineer nagadaano may hadan dan fadahay saabareen aniyeeda wal bahrayshi hoog le qobsato oo masaakiinta ban gargaarto gacan qobato dan fadahay
Le sang dans mes veines coule, parcourant mon cœur qui lui fait battre d'espoir. Je suis une plume dans le souhait de toucher chaque cœur et l'illuminer de joie, de par ma foi, de vivre dans un monde de solidarité. Je suis cette âme assoiffée des mondes sans amalgame, un monde d'apprentissage où chaque échec est synonyme de prise de courage. Je refuse de croire au désespoir, mais de voir l'histoire d'une vie dans laquelle le meilleur nous attend, malgré les larmes. Le cœur qui s'enflamme, l'âme qui s'affaiblit, l'espoir qui se ternit. La vie est une preuve d'espoir, car sans elle, elle n'existe tout simplement pas.
So the roof is gone. Hi everyone, my name is Russell Raymond and I am a 17-year-old reporter from the Commonwealth of Dominica. And today I'm going to tell you about how climate change has affected my country and what we're doing to fight back against it. I heard about the hurricane through my dad, who was in Tortola with the CARICOM Disaster Relief Unit. He informed us through amateur radio that another hurricane was heading straight for us. So that night my mother and I, we had to pack our things, put everything together. We had to head down to the fire station to take shelter. So on this street, like the day after the storm, it was extremely wet, filled with mud, just covered in trash, logs from up inside the island and tons of other trash from around the area. And it was really bad. I'm here with my grandmother in the house where I basically grew up. During this storm, the entire roof got blown over and they had to put a tarpaulin over certain sections of the house to make sure that it doesn't get wet if it rained after.
Everything I had, most of everything I had was wet, break down, mash up, and then we end up sleeping in the fire station. And then when morning come, we would come back here to throw things and try to clean there. It was pretty hard work, but we survived.
Coming in here, we have sheetrock fell from the ceiling during the storm. The class was very, very dirty afterwards, and it took a lot of effort from a lot of students to clean up the entire area because not only did that fall, but pieces of the roof flew off during the storm, so the entire room was drenched in water. I got into photography through the Dominica Youth Environment Organization, and I took that knowledge from the training program and I used it as soon as the storm hit because I wanted to show the world what happened to us after the storm. And today I take photography with me wherever I go. As a community, not only in Dominica but around the world, we should put more measures in place to mitigate climate change. Stuff like using alternate forms of energy, like solar energy, wind energy, stopping the burning of fossil fuels. These measures, if done correctly and in the right parts of the world, can stop climate change, or at least put a dent in it to the point where storms like this wouldn't be as bad, and that we will be able to enjoy the pleasures of the world.
Mi trovo al molo Favaloro, è qui che inizia tutto. Le imbarcazioni che vedete alle mie spalle sono quelle con cui arrivano tante persone, minori non accompagnati. Sono imbarcazioni assolutamente inadatte per navigare in condizioni meteorologiche difficili. Ci troviamo all'interno del molo commerciale. Quello che vedete dietro di me è un trasferimento e la domanda che si pongono molti di loro è cosa accadrà, dove ci porteranno. Noi come UNICEF riteniamo fondamentale che i bambini e le famiglie vengano portati in strutture adeguate che ricevano le cure necessarie. È triplicato il numero delle persone che scompaiono o muoiono nel percorrere la pericolosa rotta nel Mediterraneo. Sono 990 le persone che hanno perso la vita da giugno a settembre rispetto ai 334 dello scorso anno. Mi trovo qui con la Guardia Costiera che svolge attività di ricerca e di salvataggio nei confronti delle tante persone che si trovano in difficoltà nel mare. È fondamentale il meccanismo coordinato di ricerca e soccorso, ma non solo. Occorre garantire vie legali e sicure alternative all'attraversamento in mare. Quello che vedete alle mie spalle è l'hotspot di Lampedusa, dove le persone vengono temporaneamente ospitate per poi essere trasferite in altri centri di accoglienza. Proprio qui ho incontrato Mohamed, un ragazzo del Gambia che ha perso il papà e la mamma e che è arrivato qui a Lampedusa in cerca di sicurezza con un grande sogno, quello di andare a scuola. Attraverso il progetto Protect, l'UNICEF e i suoi partner garantiscono ai minori presenti nell'hotspot informative e tutto il supporto essenziale di cui hanno bisogno.
The RTSS malaria vaccine could save tens of thousands of lives each year if rolled out broadly. Because of that, it is one of the most impactful vaccines for children, particularly those in Africa, where in 2021 nearly 500,000 children died from this life-threatening disease. The RTSS malaria vaccine is also the first vaccine recommended by WHO to tackle malaria. It has taken over 35 years of research, development and testing to reach this point. The vaccine was launched in 2019 through a series of pilot introductions in Ghana, Kenya and Malawi, where to date approximately 1.5 million children have been reached with at least one dose. UNICEF is leading the procurement and supply of RTSS and future malaria vaccines. In 2022, we awarded a contract for the first ever supply of the vaccine, securing access to 18 million doses from 2023 through 2025. We work on increasing access to more malaria vaccines as they become available to protect children most at risk. Vaccines work. They save lives.
This shipment from one of UNHCR's biggest global stockpiles includes shelter material, solar lamps, blankets, kitchen sets, and other emergency items, carrying 53 metric tons of supplies to help the survivors of Libya's deadly floods. This wouldn't be possible without the generosity of our donors and partners. Please continue supporting survivors in Libya and vulnerable people around the world.
I just got back from the Benina airport in Benghazi. I was there with my colleagues to receive an airlift carrying 53 metric tons of emergency humanitarian relief sent by one of UNHCR's stockpiles in Dubai. This shipment contains kitchen sets, solar lamps, blankets, plastic sheets, and other emergency relief items that will be distributed by UNHCR through our local partners to thousands of people who have been affected by the floods that hit the eastern parts of Libya last Sunday. While we continue to respond to the most immediate and urgent needs, a lot more needs to be done in the coming weeks and months to help people cope with the devastation caused by the flood. These women, men, and children need all the support that they can get to rebuild their lives. My name is Rana Kseifi. I'm heading the UNHCR Libya Protection Team. I'm here on the ground in Derna with my colleagues. Derna is one of the cities that has been affected the most by Storm Daniel, which hit last Sunday the eastern parts of Libya. As you can see from the surroundings behind me, the situation is horrific. I cannot explain what I saw on the way coming to Derna. I saw roads split in half. I saw massive rocks that have been moved over from neighboring mountains to the coastal areas. Homes have been demolished, damaged, submerged underwater. Families have lost a very big number of their loved ones. Many are still missing, some have been split, and others have been displaced. The search and rescue teams continue to try to save lives, but the situation is far from being stable at the moment. UNHCR has already provided core relief items as a first and immediate response, and we're working with our local partners to provide a lot more to try to mitigate the impact on those families who continue to suffer tremendous amount of shock. But the needs are huge, and a lot more support is needed and urgent.
The drugs are more dangerous than the terrorists. You can see and fight IS, but the drugs come out of nowhere. They're completely invisible.
In Iraq, more and more people are using drugs, with often fatal consequences. More babies, despite a shrinking population. The Japanese city of Akashi proves it's possible. And less is more. Can we save our planet by pulling the brakes on economic growth? Drug use is on the rise worldwide. According to the UN, the number of people consuming narcotics has risen by a quarter over the past decade to around 300 million. Chemical drugs in particular have seen a sharp rise in appeal, among them methamphetamine, aka crystal meth.
It started with 5 hits, and then he wanted more. More crystal methamphetamine, a dangerously addictive drug.
Talking about it makes me disgusted with myself. It's a completely different world to yours.
This man, who we'll call Sami, used to be a bodyguard in Baghdad. Now he earns a living by selling crystal meth.
If I have 50 grams, I'll only sell 30 and keep the rest for myself. I roll it up like this, so that on the street, it looks like twice the actual amount. The complaints don't bother me. They're sick, and they need their hit, and once they had it, they forget everything.
His clientele is growing, and this poverty-stricken area of Baghdad is where some of them live. For security reasons, we have to film from inside the car. The future for young people here is a bleak one. War and conflict were followed by economic collapse and inflation. For many, the only escape is drugs. Experts estimate that 40% of the population take them, with crystal meth particularly widespread.
The drugs are more dangerous than the terrorists. You can see and fight IS, but the drugs come out of nowhere. They're completely invisible.
Narcotics agent Soapy shows us videos of raids by the authorities. Last year alone, he says, there were 16,800 arrests. And the police seized some 3.5 tons of narcotics. Iraq has severe punishments for any drug-related offences, including long prison sentences, even for addicts. With prisons full to bursting, the Interior Ministry has resorted to promising exemptions for those who agree to treatment in a clinic. Doctors, on the other hand, insist there aren't enough beds for the large numbers involved. And some are needed for female addicts. The patient who this doctor is seeing today is 25 and a crystal meth addict. She was introduced to the drug by her husband, who's a dealer. When he was arrested 3 days ago, she decided to try rehab. The next step, she says, will be to leave him.
After 2 or 3 days on drugs, he turned aggressive and beat me up, really often. I wanted to leave him, but being an addict meant I couldn't go back to my family.
Why not?
My family would kill me if they knew. It's not allowed to happen to a woman. In our culture, it's already tough if you're a man. But for women, they'd cut my head off.
Actually kill you?
Yes, kill me.
The treatment will take 14 days. Once that's over, Ezra plans to get a new start to life. We're on our way out of the Iraqi capital in the direction of Iran, the source of the crystal meth. The port city of Basra and the surrounding region are controlled by conservative Shia militias. We're told there's more crystal changing hands here than anywhere else in the country, and more addicts. One reason for the dramatic increase in activity is the official ban on alcohol introduced in the spring, says narcotics agent Ali Shaya. He recently joined a youth task force.
The spread of drugs on this scale is also because they banned alcohol, and because the kids had really easy access.
And crystal meth cuts through class divisions. Shaya introduces us to Mustafa, who's been an addict since he left high school. He comes from a respected family and is married with children himself, which is why he wants to remain anonymous.
I kept on taking it and met a lot of people doing the same, even government officials. It seemed to me like a choice between death and jail.
Mustafa found Ali Shaya via social media. He helped him to break the addiction, something that only a small percentage achieve. The agent takes us along a visit to the local jail. It's terribly overcrowded, primarily with addicts and dealers. We see shockingly cramped conditions, which we're not allowed to film. Hussein went to college. He's been here for 2 years now, sharing a cell with hundreds of other inmates. And he insists he's innocent.
I was a cab driver, and a customer asked me to drive him to meet a friend who gave him some drugs. When we set off again, we were arrested.
Hussein was promised the equivalent of $200 for the ride. Instead, he was given 5 years and 1 month in jail for dealing drugs. According to the inmates, 230 of them share a cell that has 2 toilets and 1 shower.
I was caught with 6 kilos of crystal. It wasn't my dope. It belonged to a friend. I was just holding on to it.
The punishment for the 52-year-old father? Life imprisonment. Back to drug dealer Sami. Why did he always feel so safe? Wasn't he afraid of getting caught?
The government is completely broken, and that's where most of the drug dealers come from. They're high-ranking officers, and if they tell you to carry on and keep dealing, you know you're okay.
We're unable to verify his claims, but what we can say, and where dealers, doctors, and addicts agree, is that the country has a new devastating battle on its hands.
Japan's birth rate continues to fall. Last year, the population shrank substantially by 800,000 out of a total of 125 million people. That's the biggest drop ever recorded in the country. On top of that, Japan has an aging population. So what's the answer? Boost the birth rate. We headed to Akashi to find out more.
It might not be music to everyone's ears, but they sure know how to liven up a place. It's another day of happy mayhem in this multi-story office building. The local authorities in Akashi decided to keep one floor for themselves and then gave free rein to the younger generation. Juliana and Takaki Satani are big fans of the centrally located family facility. They moved west to the modestly sized city from Tokyo and have since had 2 children, but they don't miss the capital.
It's really easy to get talking to people and swap information. Akashi is a place that makes you feel totally at home.
Akashi made a concerted effort to attract more families. The architect of those plans was former Mayor Fuzaho Izumi, who clearly likes a bit of tomfoolery himself. What was originally planned as office space is now also a big play zone.
We turned it into a no-fuss environment for families to spend time. There's a nursing room and stroller parking. Akashi is now a city for children, with this being the most visible example. The entire city has changed.
A cornerstone of the new policy is daycare. Nursery school and kindergarten are free after the second child. Plus, the city covers all healthcare costs for the youngsters, and there's no shortage of them in Akashi.
Compared to Tokyo and other cities in Japan, children here have a lot more time and opportunity for playing with kids the same age. And they really love it.
3-year-old Leon is in his element. And to ensure that he and his little pals are in safe hands, the city provides a sufficient number of qualified carers. In Japan, like in many other places, it's not the best paid profession. But here they're given assistance with finding an apartment and an advance for the rent. And staff who commit to staying in the city for longer are paid more. For parents, there's the added bonus that diapers are delivered free to their door. Akashi's birth rate is rising again. But in general, Japan faces a growing crisis. There are fewer babies, and in the meantime, fewer young women too. Researchers aren't sure that things can be turned around. One major reason for the dramatic population decline is the cost of childcare, which is why the Akashi authorities decided to take action. It was only here that starting a family became financially viable for the Satanis. That dream, they say, would not have been an option in Tokyo. Juliana Satani and her husband are both working parents. Their 2 incomes together with the low cost of living are a winning combination. Here they can afford to rent an entire house. All of these attractive conditions played a part in their starting a family. Having kids would have been practically unthinkable in the big city, where everything costs a lot of money. Akashi's family-friendly policies are a game changer for many young couples.
Perhaps we'll even have a 3rd child. It's possible here. We're also under less emotional pressure to think about it.
Akashi is now home to children who might not have been born in other parts of the country. The initiator of the program, Fuzaho Izumi, enjoys mini-celebrity status, not just because of his family policies.
As a result of our actions, families are spending more money locally. That means a boost for the regional economy and the revival of shopping streets. So there's an increase in tax revenues too. Investing in children has helped to improve the economy here.
Local parents and residents in general appreciate Akashi's forward-thinking vision, while elsewhere in Japan, children are becoming rarer.
I think if the whole country were to move in the same direction as our city, it would benefit greatly.
A growing number of cities are following Akashi's lead. They might not all have such a lively mayor, but there is a growing desire to see Japan assume a more family-friendly tune.
This week, our global team comes from South Africa.
My name is Sia, and I live in Soweto, a township in Johannesburg. And Soweto is mostly known for a lot of historic people. There's a whole lot of stuff that I would love to do. I would actually love to join the ANC and be part of the African National Congress. I'd also love to open a record label. I love to go to Paris because it's the city of love. I'm a very romantic person, and I hopefully dream of maybe one day proposing my future wife on the Eiffel Tower in Paris. A lot of things make me happy. Seeing my family happy makes me happy. Seeing my niece and my nephew waking up, going to school in the morning, and them being as privileged as other children makes me happy. And I love all my family. Just seeing us together, because people, are passing away. You don't get time to spend with your family, and they say you don't realize what you have until it's gone. So I'm giving them their flowers while they're still here. Biggest challenges I face every day would probably have to be waking up in the morning, getting ready and getting to the bus stop on time. That would be the biggest challenge I face every day, getting to the bus stop on time, because most of the time I'm usually chasing the bus. So my passion is fashion. I'm a designer. I make clothes. With that being said, I'm a designer. I make clothes with no sewing machine, but with only these two hands. These two hands and a needle. Climate change is a big problem in South Africa, a big problem. And when it does happen, it actually ruins the lives of millions and millions of people, because millions and millions of people lose their homes. Millions and millions of people get their homes flooded with the information in their homes, such as their identification and passports, and just it's a tragedy, and it hurts many people around the world.
A booming economy is typically seen as a good thing. Growth creates jobs, raises the standard of living, and boosts consumption. Despite current crises, the global economy continues to expand. This year, says the OECD, by 3%. Next year, by almost the same again. But our consumerism is destroying the planet. So, is it time to give it all up?
Having more has given us a lot of comfort and a lot of choice, but with a pretty big price tag, like more carbon emissions, more resource depletion, more pollution. Our addiction to making and consuming more stuff is exhausting the planet. Everyone's talking about avoiding a climate catastrophe, but is switching to renewable energy and buying electric cars while keeping the status quo really going to help? A growing number of people say no. They want us to fundamentally change the way we run our economies, and with that, our lives. Some call it degrowth. For decades, countries have been judged by the growth of their GDP. That's gross domestic product. The more goods and services produced, the higher the GDP, the cooler the country.
To keep having GDP growth accumulating, you also need to keep having more material stuff extracted and going through the economy. This is not sustainable on a planet with, a finite amount of resources.
So this is where the idea of degrowth comes in. The term degrowth is credited to André Gortz, an Austrian-French social philosopher who in 1972 questioned whether it was a good idea to constantly make more stuff. Shortly after, academics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology published a report called The Limits of Growth. This rigorous forecast concluded that unless growth was curbed, civilization would collapse by 2072. Suffice to say, it didn't go down well. The academic journal Nature even called it a whiff of doomsday. Degrowth talk started to crop up again in the 2000s, once data began to show just how irreversibly we were harming the planet. A recent paper in Nature, yes, the one who poo-pooed degrowth back in the 70s, suggested that it should be widely and thoroughly considered. And the term has now made its way into the most recent IPCC report on how to stay below 1.5 degrees Celsius. One degrowth approach that has been widely considered is decoupling, where you get to maintain economic growth while reducing carbon emissions.
Where I live in the UK, it's very proud of itself because it claims that it's managed to successfully decarbonize its economy while GDP, it's not doing well, but GDP is growing slowly while our emissions appear to be going down.
Surprisingly, especially countries with advanced economies have been able to do it, for example, by shifting towards renewable energy sources. Like Denmark, which reduced its consumption-based emissions by 35% between 2000 and 2019, while growing the GDP per capita by 16%. Germany reduced its carbon emissions per capita by 24% in the same time frame, while growing 26%. And even the United States did the same, which sounds great and definitely is a first step. But the problem is that decoupling is only concerned about CO2.
We live in many ecological crises, not just one. It's not just an issue of fossil fuel emissions. So if we just say, well, it's about decarbonization only, you're missing ecological degradation, biodiversity loss. The UK has some of the worst biodiversity of any country in the world, never mind the EU. And this doesn't solve that problem.
What next? The problem is, even those who support what degrowth stands for think the word itself is problematic.
Why I don't like the term degrowth is it has a negative feel to it. The key thing is shrinking the material inputs into economic activity.
Degrowth sounds scary, like it wants people to return to the dark ages. But it actually just means scaling down the least sustainable industries, like mass-produced meat and dairy, fast fashion, car and aviation manufacturing, or ensuring that the things we rely on, refrigerators, phones, washing machines, have a longer shelf life, repairing instead of replacing something the moment it stops working. So it's not just about stopping growth, but about increasing growth in sectors that benefit society as a whole, like creating green jobs, training workers on installing renewable energy, insulating buildings, and regenerating ecosystems, and investing in public transportation and services. But is that just wishful thinking? Might this new approach to growth actually make life worse for us? This is a crux of the degrowth debate. Would it unravel the advances humans have made? Many facets of modern life, like living longer and lower rates of child mortality, are associated with high GDP, among other factors. Economists that are in favor of the current system say that more immediately, degrowth could mean widespread job loss, mortgage defaults, and business closures. That it would force us all into a permanent recession, curtailing research and innovation, the things we need to develop green and more efficient technologies. The problem is that active degrowth hasn't happened anywhere yet, meaning that nobody knows whether that would happen.
How do you address the creation غارات الآن غارات جديدة كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا، ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات ومشاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
شوية هيك أبو حمزة.
الساعات يوم أمس كانت الغارات الآن غارات جديدة كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات ومشاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شوية هيك أبو حمزة.
الآن غارات جديدة كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا، ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات وما شاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شويه هيك ابو حمزه.
يوم أمس كانت الغارات الآن غارات جديدة. كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا، ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات وما شاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شوية هيك أبو حمزة.
الساعات يوم أمس كانت الغارات الآن غارات جديدة. كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا، ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات ومشاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شويه هيك ابو حمزه. هنيجي وراك.
الساعات يوم امس كانت الغارات الان غارات جديده كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفه جدا ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الان مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات ومشاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شوية هيك أبو حمزة.
الساعات يوم أمس كانت الغارات الآن غارات جديدة. كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا، ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات ومشاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شوية هيك أبو حمزة. هنيجي وراك.
خلال الساعات يوم أمس كانت الغارات الآن غارات جديدة. كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا، ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات ومشاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شوية هيك أبو حمزة.
يوم أمس كانت الغارات الآن غارات جديدة. كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا، ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات وما شاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شوية هيك أبو حمزة.
يوم أمس كانت الغارات الآن غارات جديدة كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا، ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات وما شاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شوية هيك أبو حمزة.
الساعات أو أمس كانت الغارات، الآن غارات جديدة. كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا، ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات وما شاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
شوية هيك أبو حمزة. خليه يجي وراك.
هذا الساعات يوم أمس كانت الغارات الآن غارات جديدة كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات ومشاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما
ايوه عندك ايوه
مدينة الإسرائيلية في مصر الخارجية الإسرائيلية كما قلت أنها ما زالت
شوية هيك أبو حمزة. هنيجي وراك.
خلال الساعات يوم أمس كانت الغارات الآن غارات جديدة كما تلاحظون الغارات كثيفة جدا ولكنها تستهدف ذات المحور. الآن مزيد من الغارات في نفس المحور، وهذا ربما كما قلنا يعكس استهدافا متعمدا من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لهذه المنطقة. هذه المنطقة على العموم هي منطقة مرتفعة نسبيا مقارنة مع طبيعة قطاع غزة السهلية، وهي منطقة تشرف إلى حد ما على معبر بيت حانون إيرز، تشرف على بلدة بيت حانون، وتشرف أيضا على منطقة جباليا وبيت لاهيا. ربما هذا واحد من أسباب الاستهداف، ولكن كما يبدو فإن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يتعمد ويقصد تكثيف هذه الغارات على مدار الدقائق الماضية ويحصرها فقط في هذا المحور. بالتأكيد يمكن أن يكون تفسيرات كثيرة من باب التحليل وقراءة التطورات ومشاكل. الآن غارات جديدة. هو حقيقة يمكن أن يكون انعكاسا على سبيل المثال لما قرره رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو عندما